A driver is pulled over after rolling past a stop sign. The passenger could say it doesn't really matter if you're just going to start again anyway. I always liked the one. A cop pulls over a motorist for running a stop sign. Realizing it was their grade school English teacher, the cop tells them a stop sign is a period, not a comma. Slow motion footage of the unprovoked brutality was shown at his trial, forcing the cop out of the department and 3 towns over to find a new job. Nice police brutality jokes. The white whale. Buddy, I first heard this joke over a decade ago from my teacher, and she probably stole it too. What's the only animal with an asshole on its back? A police horse. Whaling. The sign says stop not slow. A woman came home from a shopping trip with a black eye. The woman's husband asked her, what happened? A married man shows up at work with 2 black eyes. Attendant wanted vanilla, but wife wanted cookies and cream. No one can eat a 2-gallon tub in one sitting. Hey, Billy, the other day I went up to my girlfriend and said, I'd like a little pussy. She said, me too. Mine's as big as a house. Thanks. A new variation on an old premise. As soon as her vagina was filled, I knew we were sprinting to the finish. People upvote this. I love DV jokes. But when you combine them with fat jokes. 100,000,010. Cranberry juice tastes like it doesn't want to be wet, just makes me more thirsty. I always order it with a glass of water on the side. It's like drinking napkins. I think they call that effect astringency. This is the best description I have ever read. Cranberries have tannins like grapes do, that's what causes the astringency. Tannins are used to tan leather. Wait till you try red wine. Have you ever tasted a persimmon before it's ripe? How did you describe this so perfectly? Holy shit, I think this is the best way to describe cranberry juice. When I went that tart cranberry taste, and am not drinking it because I'm ill, he'll mix it with ginger ale. Just enough for the color of the ginger ale to change to a midpoint of red. Why the hell does this make so much sense? Best thought of the year, so far. It's good for your kidneys. You think this, and then you drink pomegranate juice. Fucking lol. How is this description so apt? Dear people posting sex questions, how's it going in the basement? You wanna come down and find out? It's sticky. I don't live in a basement, stupid stereotypes. I live in a tiny, dark apartment on the 2nd floor, all by myself. I lovingly call it the fortress of solitude. I think it's about time I threw out the shoebox. I'm having intercourse with my sex doll by the water heater as I type this. It's dark and wet, but at least my anime figures are here to keep me company. It's not a basement if there is no house above it. I'd much rather live in a basement than experience the attic apartment again in summer. I don't post any questions, but damn do I miss a good basement. Don't build them where I live now, so I have to live up here in the burning light. Lonely. Low to masturbating. I blame radon contamination. Everyone says eat the rich until they become rich. Richard Nixon, I promise to cut taxes for the rich and use the poor as a cheap source of teeth for aquarium gravel. Fry, that'll show those poor. Leela, you're not rich. Fry, but someday I might be rich, and people like me better watch their step. Unless they become rich by selling rich people meat. Going from poor to rich that should be eaten is not going to happen 99.9999. It's just a dream. I'm absolutely fine with my taxes going up and I'm in a high earning bracket. I want it to start or at least include the top earners though. Billionaires and corporations are massive money hoards. There is a few orders of magnitude between being rich and the rich. For the overwhelming majority of people, millions of dollars is rich. But Eat the Rich is talking about people with a few more zeros in their net worth. Free porn. My girlfriend sent me a text saying spacebar stop at work engine my keyboard, give me an alternative. Does anyone know what alternative means? There's a scam going on at my local Walmart where 2 gorgeous women will approach you in the parking lot and immediately start kissing you and each other. They ask you to bring them to your car and when you do they start undressing and tell you to do the same. Then one of them starts pleasuring you while the other steals your wallet. I've already been robbed 3 times this week. Anyway, this is just a heads up to let you know that Walmart sells wallets for $5 a piece. Thanks for heads up. I didn't fall for it. Why am I reading this in the voice of a drunk person? Thank duck I didn't click it. WHW bolt dodged. Tetla. Bre urthwbrdtthz for ths tup. Thix. FX45 BBFSG. Thank you for sharing that. You'll go blind. It's 2024 and federal minimum wage is still $7.25. Why doesn't it annually increase the same rate inflation does? It's 2 things. Point 1. Businesses don't want it higher, so lobbyists and donors spend a lot of time going against raising it. 2. The US is huge. There are so many regions where $12 would be maybe doable with 2 people and others where it would be laughably, and states that actually give a shit have much higher minimum wages and do increase based on some factors, but not necessarily inflation. That's what many countries do. It's called wage indexation. The federal minimum wage could have been tied to inflation, but politicians wanted something to fight for and against in the future. hence screwing over tens millions of Americans. I couldn't find a minimum wage job near me if I wanted to. It kind of obsoleted itself. So an old Jewish man, an Auschwitz survivor, lives into old age but finally dies. According to his son, Neil Armstrong told very bad jokes involving the moon to audiences. The audience would give a polite chuckle and look uneasy, and Neil would say, "I guess you had to be there," and had a ton of fun himself this way. Ricky Gervais told this once, "I think it works more as a story told that gets people to think than a joke. I find it works better if God says it's not funny rather than I don't get it." I heard a similar joke but it went slightly different, same punchline joke. Reminds me of the quote from the 2004 movie The Punisher where Frank Castle has learned his whole family has been killed. Worth the vote, definitely. Dark as Elie Wiesel's night itself. I don't get it. Like anything, it's a matter of personal taste, but as a Jewish person whose grandparents were Holocaust survivors, I've always loved this joke and found it hilarious. Till Canadian infantry brought over 1,000 of the airborne folding bicycle on D-Day, 1944, to travel greater distances than on foot. I find it weird that in zombie movies, video games, no one ever thinks to use bicycles as a means of travel. It wouldn't be that much of a secret weapon as the Japanese used them to great effect during the invasion of Malaya, and the successful seizure of Link below is a very detailed account of how they were used. Japanese bicycle infantry. Apparently the bikes utilized as yet disclosed stealth technology. These bikes allowed soldiers to travel greater distances while remaining silent and undetectable. I can see myself getting on a bicycle with a rifle plus a 70-pound 32-ish kg backpack and immediately wobbling into a ditch. Till eating too many sour Skittles in one sitting or any sour candy can make your tongue shed a layer of skin. What that you tie? Sour Skittles are regular Skittles coated in citric acid powder. I used to work in Skittles, and when the sour ones came out I made a small batch of extra sour ones for my nephews. I learned this with a bag of Warheads on a family road trip as a kid. Just thinking about it makes that back corner of my mouth tingle. I got a big bag of pure citric acid powder, now all candy is sour candy. My mouth loves me lol. I love sour candy and used to eat it a ton when I was little. I don't remember this ever happening, but I'd get a really painful crack down the middle of my tongue that made eating other things a chore lol. Did anyone ever experience that? Till the Germans started shooting their bullets backwards in response to the British using tanks. These reversed bullets were blunt and thus wouldn't be as easily deflected, denting armor and spitting fragments at the crew. I love that the only example photo is just an unmodified rifle cartridge. It's called spalling. The concussion of the round hitting the outside of the tank would cause fragments on the inside to break off and potentially injure the crew. It's not that the bullets would penetrate the hills, though. They would just knock some loose on the inside. But obviously if you get hit with enough steel fragments it's going to cause some problems as a crew member. I thought that was urban legend? It really happened? Germans invent the fundamentals of Tesh. How does one load a bullet backwards? Isn't the primer at the back? Wouldn't the hammer hit the round itself? Thanks guys, that makes more sense. Sounds like hogwash. Till the first black applicant to the then all-white University of Mississippi was committed to an insane asylum for being crazy enough to apply. 1958, Clannon King, Mississippi? I'm shocked. There was also the black veteran who applied, can't recall which Southern University. University admin framed him for theft and had him sent away for a long term. I swear you all just opened the thread to argue. Racism is fucking wild. This mindset is still here, dude. Remember those fleas in the jar? Family Guy did a version of this. They had to give a second room to his balls. He was obviously committed as an intimidation tactic. This man wasn't crazy, he just saw the world for what it was. Bullshit. We need more aggressive voices like his in politics. He was right, the 1950s weren't asking for integration, they were angrily shouting for equality. That was too much for even his peers evidently. Till in 2020, 68-year-old actress Anna Obregon lost her only son to cancer at 27. After his death, she used her son's frozen sperm to grant her wish of having a granddaughter via surrogacy who she's currently raising as her daughter. To be clear, she did not carry the child and the ovum was that of a donor. Not as sketchy as the headline makes it out to seem. The article says that it was his last wish, and no, she did not carry the child, guys. Vomiting face. She revealed this week in an interview with Spanish magazine Hola that she adopted a baby girl born abroad who was biologically her granddaughter. The baby is called Anna Sandra. It's her granddaughter, not her daughter-granddaughter. I mean it is, but yeah, WTF. Importantly, he wanted her to do this. Still weird but seems ethical enough. There are many ways to grieve. This seems like an unhealthy way. That's a tiny bit weird. Till that Isaac Hayes, the voice of Chef from South Park, decision to leave the show was actually made by his entourage, all of whom were ardent Scientologists, and that it was made after Hayes suffered a stroke, leaving him unable to make such decisions on his own. Goodbye, children. Suddenly the Super Adventure Club episode makes more sense. Till Chef is also his niece from Robin Hood Man in Tights. Suck on my chocolate salty balls. Was there really a decision to be made if he had a stroke and maybe wasn't able to do the job anymore? If he couldn't make decisions on his own, then he's probably not well enough to work. At first I thought this was going to be a reaction to the Scientology views expressed on the show, didn't see it going to his condition after a stroke. Baby, you better get back in the kitchen. 'Cause I got a sneaking man, baby. Baby. You just burnt my balls. His music was par excellence. Till when he was an Illinois state legislator, Abraham Lincoln was challenged to a duel by State Auditor James Shields. Lincoln insisted on broadswords as the weapon rather than pistols, prompting Shields to back out and call for a truce. Can't blame Shields there. Lincoln definitely would have had the reach advantage. I read somewhere that Lincoln was chopping high branches with the sword when Shields got there, and he kept doing things to show his longer reach. He didn't want to duel him, so he found a way to psych out his opponent. That's the thing about challenging someone to a duel, they get to pick the weapon fight style. Lincoln was good with a blade. Killed tons of vampires back in the day. Shields is an unfortunate name for someone who didn't want to duel with swords, lol. The fly is the least creatively named animal. Anteater is pretty close. Horse comes from an ancient word that means runner. All animal names are like this. They're all named things like the tall one, the one that roars, the jumping one, and so on. The only difference is in English, we don't recognize the original root. Trace the etymology and they're all uncreative. Flies were named by the same dude who named fireplace. In Danish, we call a lizard for 4 legs furben. And a centipede is 1,000 legs tusenben. In English? Maybe, although dung beetle doesn't strike me as any more so really. In other, the German for duck-billed platypus is Schnabelity, or quite literally a beak animal, which isn't terribly creative either. And sloth is faulty or lazy animal, which isn't a whole lot better either. It was this close to being called a land. I think they were being nice when they called them tree frogs. Stink bug would like a word. What do you call 66 of a poop? I feel 33 a turd would have been a better setup, but still a funny joke nonetheless. Poo thirds? Mother-in-law. Shit, that was a good one. Haha. A borderline genius combination of humor and math. What do you call 1/3 of a poop in the tree and a turd? A waste. Good luck, hope everything comes out alright. Good one. Only in Quebec. I thought it was corn. Let's make the best of it. I got 1 turd to go. Your girlfriend. Shitty 6. I have no diarrhea. This was an excrement joke. Lamau, I am pooping while reading this. Filler. What piece of history is deliberately being erased from existence? Te Rohingya is a very interesting one. They have been indigenous to the Rakhine state for centuries before being driven out in 2016. They were butchered and murdered, raped and expelled with all evidence of being omitted from Burmese records. They now are spread all across Asia, where they are met with great hostilities and are currently globe-hopping, longing to return home. There were more countries in the Axis force than just Germany, Italy, and Japan. In World War II, how France people in general were pretty okay and open to Nazi ideals. Under occupation, shipping people to camps etc., but they pretty much rewrote the history, glorifying the resistance force who were just a little group of individuals resisting Nazi occupation. Serbs desperately try to negate all the atrocities they did all over Bosnia. What type of death was common 100 years ago that is very rare today? 100 years ago, tooth infections had a relatively high mortality rate. 1 in 10 would die. 400 years ago, tooth infections were basically a death sentence, and one of the leading causes of death in tooth infections are easily dealt with. The discovery of antibiotics is by far the greatest achievement in human history. Polio, accidental poisonings, arsenic, mercury, lead, etc. Also, penicillin was discovered until 1928, so a lot of infections were pretty deadly. Anything involving a horse, smallpox, pertussis, measles, tuberculosis, infection. Calvin Coolidge's son died of a blister from not wearing socks while playing tennis on the White House tennis court. That was less than 100 years ago. We are so lucky. Sudden infant death syndrome. What's an unwritten rule in your country that tourists always seem to break? Do not approach the wildlife in North America. People joke about Australia having all the dangerous animals, then will walk right up to our elk during rutting season and get gored. Same with bears, bison, moose. These animals are not tame. Use of sun protection. I know it's technically the same sun, but it works a bit different here in Australia. Do not pick up the cute blue ringed octopus. Do not pick up the cute blue ringed octopus. Do not pick up the cute blue ringed octopus. Do not pick up the cute blue ringed. Not fucking do this. Don't swim in brackish rivers in the Northern Territory. Oh wait, That's a written rule tourists always seem to break. Stop asking how to catch a leprechaun. It's trafficking, and they are a protected species under EU law. Obey the signs seems to be planet-wide. Be quiet at memorials. Stay off the monuments. What's claimed as a masterpiece by the whole world, but you don't just get away. The Mona Lisa isn't even the most interesting piece by Da Vinci. And Da Vinci's best work weren't his paintings. In this thread, people ignoring the question and just saying stuff they don't like. The Eiffel Tower. Everyone in Paris thought it was hideous when it was built. It's not really that aesthetically pleasing. Masterpieces were initially pieces submitted when the person wanted to become a master. Somebody who was able to teach others, not somebody who was at the pinnacle of their many masterpieces are inferior works of the person because they started teaching and added interesting influences or increased their technique because of it. Lil Sebastian. I don't get it, at all. I mean, he's kind of a small horse. Who is one actor or actress that had an amazing American accent and you were surprised they were not American? Christian Bale, the guy from Roger Rabbit. Charlize Theron, a South African girl who deliberately developed an American accent and now can't even pronounce her own surname properly anymore. Toni Collette. Hugh Laurie, 100. Melanie Linsky. I seriously couldn't believe she was from New Zealand and went straight to YouTube to hear her original accent. She embodies her American characters so well, especially in I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. Andrew Garfield. All the Brits in Band of Brothers. Matthew Rhys. I'm always surprised. Idris Elba and Tom Holland come to mind. Hearing Christian Bale in Ford vs Ferrari and me wondering what the fuck is this man doing with a cartoon Brit accent. Then looking it up and many people insisting that's close to his real accent. Stringer Bell. Will Poulter. What happens when you poop in an elevator? Shit's about to go down. You get thrown out of the hotel. That's disgusting on so many levels. That's another story. You go to floor 2 or the 3rd floor. You still end up taking the stairs. This is the type of humor that keeps me alive. Much needed levity in these trying times. Consider this upvote well deserved. Shit's going down. Who knew you could stack turds that high? You wake up. That joke was wrong. On so many levels. Love in an elevator was stopped. That shit flew right over my head. It rolls downstairs. You hit number 2 and take that shit to the next level, if you're going up. If not, then shit is about to go down. Shit on the escalator goes round and round. Mentally you are going down with the sickness. Uncle Dad, is that you? Elevator jokes are wrong on so many levels. Get a new nickname, Downtown Brown. This is better than a dad joke. Shit goes down.